Another thread from Carlos of Sweden. Carlos posts a clip from a Joe Rogan interview in which Joe Rogan says of Donald Trump's claim that the suicide rate could be higher than the number of deaths caused by COVID-19 if we go into a depression. Rogan says that there's no hard evidence of that. Carlos begins, as always, Donald Trump was right. There is evidence of that. During the Great Depression, the age-adjusted suicide rate went from 17 per 100,000 to 21 per 100,000 at the peak in 1932. The age-adjusted suicide rate in 2018 was 14.2 per 100,000. That was 48,344 suicides. It's clear now that we won't hit the projection of 100,000 deaths in the U.S. The mitigation efforts are working. In 2018, 69.7% of suicides were middle-aged white males. If we keep the economy shuttered, we will see an epidemic of suicide, and it could cost us more lives than COVID-19. Here's what Americans have to do. Stop expressing opinions until you look into the issue. Trump was clearly referring to the increase in suicide during the Great Depression, and he knows we were much hardier people back then. My best friend committed suicide in 2001. His parents came here from Oklahoma during the Great Depression. He spoke with a thick Oklahoma accent. The reason he killed himself was that he was a quadriplegic who did not become numb from the neck down after his accident. He went in the other direction and suffered full body pain. He said it felt like when you smash your thumb with a hammer and burn it on a hot pan. He went to every pain clinic in the state, had nerves severed, took enough painkillers to wipe out a company of U.S. Marines, underwent hypnotism, had acupuncture. Nothing worked. Everything in his body was out of whack. He showed me that when he bit his right index finger, his left arm flapped like a chicken's wing. If I pressed on his stomach, his legs kicked. He tried for 2 years to get me to help him commit suicide, but I refused. Finally, he told me that he was going to go out in front of an 18-wheeler unless I helped him. All he wanted me to do was to open the back gate in a vacant house that had a swimming pool. The house was owned by people who lived in the Bay Area, so I told him to make one last try to open the gate. He was in an electric wheelchair, and if he couldn't, I'd open the gate for him. He made one last try and opened the gate, so I was off the hook. I missed it when he told me he was going to do it that night. He said, "It's been really great knowing you," which in the context of the conversation I thought was just a compliment. When I went out to see him the next day, there was a memorial set up for him. I still miss him, but I oppose doctor-assisted suicide. All you have to do is look at Dr. Walter van der Reken, a Belgian psychiatrist considered the world's greatest expert on anorexia nervosa. In 2007, one of its patients reported that he'd been having sex with his female patients for decades. Before she could testify against him, another psychiatrist euthanized her for depression, which was illegal at the time in Belgium, but suddenly became legal. Every single state and country that offers doctor-assisted suicide ends up with doctors murdering patients. This is because a mentally sound doctor is there to help as much as possible. No doctor should want to euthanize patients. The answer is to provide hospice care that essentially has no limits to the preventing of suffering, palliative care. When my father went into hospice, they explained that the hospice never withholds food or water as long as the patients want them. They're given. We were asked if we wanted to put a PICC line into my father to feed him after he began refusing food, but we declined. He'll refuse food because he no longer feels hunger pangs, and he'll refuse water when his kidneys shut down, we were told. But we could have essentially kept him alive for months. Nobody pressured us one way or the other. It's a complicated issue. Everyone has to support what they think is the best solution. Just because I oppose doctor-assisted suicide doesn't mean you have to oppose it. But Trump is right. A long-term shutdown of the economy will kill more people than COVID-19. The population is totally different today from what it was in 1929. We're doing a terrific job in mitigation, but too many people are still completely uninformed about what's happening and why. The press wants experts to validate Trump's statements. If Trump had initially listened to the experts, we'd be up you-know-what creek. Trump is an expert. Just accept it.